Welcome, my name is Michael. This is my new van, as I'm calling it, my Freedom Machine. It comes with a number of modifications. Firstly, there's ramp access on the side for me to get in and out of the vehicle. The suspension raises and lowers so that it can be a lower gradient, particularly when I'm parked curbside. The driving controls. As you can see here, this is my cockpit. I have a hand throttle. On the right hand side of the steering wheel you can see a steering mechanism. This is the CPU that sits under the passenger seat that controls the steering. And this is the battery backup that goes with that steering mechanism. There is a dual motor that sits with the steering wheel to ensure that nothing can go wrong. This here is my manual wheelchair, which has a smart drive on the back of it, which gives me a little bit of power assist because my arms are quite weak. That allows me to get in and out of the van. I'll just give you a demonstration here. Helps if I've got the brakes off. As you can see here, I've got buttons that allow me to press to get the door to open automatically, and down comes the ramp. And you'll notice the suspension is in the lowered position so that the gradient of the ramp isn't too great for me to push up with my weaker arms. I'm a C4 level incomplete quadriplegic, which is why my arms and shoulders are so weak. I can't really get my shoulders up above my head, which makes it very difficult. I've worked very hard on my strength. So as you can see here, with a little push and using my core in the push as well, I can set the motor running, and that helps me get up the ramp. And that's it, I'm in the van. Now, as I said, I'm an incomplete quadriplegic, so my method of transfer is quite unconventional, so I'll talk you through it. Brakes on always helps. So you'll see me move my legs here. My right leg is quite strong and operates almost normally. My left leg is a bit weaker, but by kicking up the foot plate, I've got a handrail on the back of the passenger seat. I can stand up. Again, a lot of therapy has gone into that, but here we go. So now I've got the driver's seat, which comes back and swivels. And so a simple move, stand up, front foot into the front of the van, and that's it. I'm seated. I've got controls on the side which allow me to raise the seat. Get my average left leg in position, and now I've got another control that allows me to swivel the seat. There we are, we're in position. I can also walk a bit on crutches, so what I wanted is a mobility vehicle that allowed me options. So I can also, if I'm going to a friend's house, for instance, I can walk out my front door into the van, rest the crutches on the passenger seat. As you can see, this isn't a means of mobility that I can do for a long time, but it is one that I can do. So if I was visiting a friend's house with steps, for instance, I could get there using this mechanism, knowing that I wouldn't need to be pushing around in my manual wheelchair. In addition to this, I wanted a vehicle that I could use an electric wheelchair, because I can't push the manual wheelchair for a long period of time or over difficult terrain. So this van is set up to be able to take an electric wheelchair as well. And here I am now in the front seat. So what I want to show you is how I put the seatbelt on. You can see I have a rubber strap that loops it over my hand throttle, and using my wonderful arm function, I say facetiously, I can pull that off, and I've now got it in position to clip it in. This has taken a little bit of work to work out a method to do this, and I'm pretty much there, but between using my two very curled up hands, I can get it in position with my left hand, and then with a little bit of effort across my body, I can clip it in with my right hand. There we go, we're clipped in, and in theory we're ready to start the vehicle. Position my seat. Alright, just before we drive, obviously, we close the ramp, so I'm doing all of this using a remote that I can hang around my neck. And the vehicle is set up for keyless entry, so here we are, ready to go. I start the vehicle using my keyless controls. Here I'm showing you that I'm showing you the capabilities really of the Paravan driving system. So you can see here I'm negotiating a very, very tight set of trees in an unpopulated car park. And you can see how much work the system is doing and how reliably it's doing it. So I'm easily navigating left and right whilst controlling the speed of the vehicle with my right foot as the foot brake and the hand throttle with my left hand and steering with the right hand. There we go. So that's the capabilities of the vehicle. I'll just show you in a similar thing but in higher speeds. So you can see I've got a bit more throttle control here and navigating a wider set of trees in the same car park. And now a nice big loop at the end. Alright, and now after showing you how the Paravan system works and provides the steering for me, I'll put it into some practical situations. So here is a reverse park. Doing it nice and slowly. That's my neighbour's car in front of me. And the last thing I'd want to do is to put a dent in my neighbour's car. You can see I use the normal gear lever. I've got enough function in my left thumb to depress the button that releases the lever, and whilst I can't change the gears particularly quickly, it is a reasonably reliable way to do it. Right, that's the button to turn the vehicle off. Alright, so we'll go for a little drive. So I'm leaving the car park I was doing my zigzagging in before. Now the secondary controls for the vehicle are all in the headrest. So my left and right indicator, turning high beam on and off, windscreen wipers, and the horn. For the purposes of the demonstration, I'm in an unpopulated area, but it's got roundabouts, and there is some traffic, but not a lot. So this is negotiating a roundabout with some speed humps built into it as well. I'll do a full lap of the roundabout just to show you how it works. To talk a little bit through the condition that my quadriplegia has left me in, my right leg works relatively normally, particularly below my knee, ironically. So I've got good ankle control and calf control, and my right hip works fairly well. So it was a logical thing for me to do to use my right foot for the braking. The drama I have is I don't have a lot of feeling in that foot, so after some testing it was decided that I would just do the braking with this foot, even though I was very close to being able to accelerate and brake, but I didn't feel comfortable enough doing it that way, so I thought I'll eliminate one of the two and just use my right foot to brake. Here I'm just negotiating a roundabout with a little bit more speed. There's a speed hump there, and then a corner. Along this stretch I'm speeding up and slowing down for speed humps. There we go, so off the throttle and speed hump. There it is there. Over we go. Now that shows a reliable way of both accelerating and braking. Here we go again. That's actually an off camber speed bump, so just to show you that with the hand joystick you can control bumps in the road quite successfully. A little bit of speed again, and then slow down for a speed hump. Yeah, so my condition has left me with shoulders that made it not possible to use use the steering wheel to steer. So whilst my movement is reliable, I didn't have the range of movement to use the steering wheel to steer. So putting the joystick in just to fulfill this task has solved that problem, and with a little bit of training that's gone into it, it's proving to be a very reliable way and not a particularly taxing way for me to steer. So I've got very good endurance behind the wheel. This is a roundabout that actually changes shape as I go around the roundabout. We'll turn left here and go over a bump or two, and a very tight entry because of traffic islands into a left turn. And away we go again. Here I'm showing you a higher speed roundabout, much smaller roundabout, but it's a consistent shape. And I'll turn left off this roundabout into a very tight winding entry into a car park. Small bump here which requires a little bit of control of the steering. And there we go, you can see the road in front before the sun glare kicks in. Now what I'll show you in this car park is a bit of throttle where I speed up. And then brake. And a tight right turn into the next aisle for parking. Bring on some throttle. Some braking, and then we'll do a left turn. Away we go again. So the process by which I have got to this point, it's taken about 18 months, but a lot of it was initially I started with some testing just to see what I was capable of, particularly with my right foot, as to what tasks it could do. And as I said before, we eliminated the acceleration from that, so it's a simple braking action that it performs. When I say simple, it needs to be reliable, and that's obviously what we were aiming for. I then purchased a van, and we worked out how to modify it for my access, and I'm really happy with how I can get in and out of it and use it, and it's a very independent way of me getting around to a number of locations. As I navigate this car park with some U-turns and those sorts of things. But using the manual chair with the Smart Drive allows me to go to places such as a shopping centre, because the Smart Drive allows me to motor around a good flat surface really well and provide me with a good bit of independence without being stuck in my electric wheelchair. The electric wheelchair would obviously be if I went somewhere which had rougher terrain. I would take the electric wheelchair, and as discussed, I've got the option of just using my crutches. Because I'm using a normal driver's seat, I can share this vehicle with my family and can share the driving on a long trip very easily because I'm using the normal chair, and the vehicle can easily be converted, flicking a few switches and releasing the motors on the steering column to enable an able-bodied person to drive the vehicle normally. So there, we've navigated that car park. You can see with the Paravan technology what is capable. There's no fatigue involved, and in terms of what I can do in the space of an hour, you know, it would probably tire an able body out with the amount of steering. We're now on the open road doing with a bit more speed. This is actually in the Dandenongs, so the roads are quite narrow still. We're doing around about 50 to 60 kilometres an hour here, but you can see where it's never flat and it's never straight. The Paravan technology has parameters that set a different level of sensitivity depending on the speed you're going. So at lower speeds, a smaller movement will result in a larger movement of the steering wheel, and at higher speeds that will result in a lesser movement. I'll let you enjoy the drive with me. There won't be too much talking here. I think I've talked enough about my condition. But yeah, the modifications were done initially. My accessibility modifications were done in Melbourne by Capital Special Vehicles out in Dandenong, and that included lowering the floor, moving the fuel tank, adding the suspension that raises and lowers, the Recaro seats that I've put in, which provide more comfort and support than a normal seat, also for a bit of stability, particularly around my core and shoulders, as well as putting in electronic park brake. From there, the vehicle had to be sent to Problem Management Engineering in Sydney, where the driving modifications were added. Nice tight right-hander coming up here. So the process of the modifications took around 9 months. From then I picked the vehicle up, and it's been a number of lessons, obviously with a lot to learn, with and obviously limited functions to use reliably. It's a matter of using those reliable functions as best you can and learn a new way to drive. So the idea is to get on the road only when you've mastered those controls and learnt that new set of skills to do it reliably. The vehicle that I purchased actually came with the automatic doors, so it was a matter of adding the ramp and its automatic functions to go with the doors. Some nice country roads there. It's been quite an exercise to build up to that. It's coming into a township here, and I just wanted to illustrate driving in some traffic. So here we're entering a main road. And away we go. So along here, we're in a township at the moment, obviously. Nice set of lights that I sneak through here before the lights change. So the lessons that I've been given to get to the point where I'm able to drive have been provided by Tom Ely, an occupational therapist who's also a mechanic, driving instructor and anything else really. An amazing gentleman who really covers all bases and knows the Paravan technology, so a very unique individual. We need more of him, but I've been lucky enough to get enough time from him to get to the point where I'm driving capably. The limit along this road, speed limit along this road is 90. I'm driving at around 80 to 85, just as, well, obviously to ensure I'm under the speed limit and not holding anyone up, but to illustrate that using this technology I'm able to comfortably handle speeds and traffic, and it really is a comfortable way to drive. This particular lesson where I did the filming, I drove for an hour and 40 minutes and experienced no real fatigue apart from normal driving fatigue really that would occur for anyone. Little left turn off the roundabout here and away we go. Finish with, I'm going to navigate some much smaller country roads, obviously at slower speeds, but to illustrate that the steering mechanism with the Paravan technology, once mastered, is an extremely accurate and reliable way of steering, even the narrowest of roads.
But it is hitting on the clubs, got to feel like a real man beating your chest, just like your King Kong, but you just a guitar, no string, no song. Feeling free, like you don't even know it, man. You're towing the line, open, you just don't blow it, man. You're stuck in the mainframe, try to win the big game. So much potential, even makes it more. Shake, aim. Here we go again, same old shit. Just another name, looking at the destiny there in your palm. But now you got your strings, but you got no song. Sing, 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 shake it like a chicken wing, and out what you get it about what you bring. So bring it to the table, not because you have to go to bed. Oh, what's in store? I don't know anymore. Oh, what's inside? 'Cause I can't hide from it no more. Oh, what you see? Well, listen to me
dirt driveway. Again, slow speeds, but it all stays the opposite
I tell you once, I tell you twice,
of my
it's
method
gonna
of
be a
driving.
long time. But you
Good
don't
brake
take
control,
no one's
throttle
advice. It's gonna be a long time. Well, what you won't listen then? Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a
as
long
Tom would say,
time.
smooth
It's
and
gonna be a long time. Gonna be a long
Thank you for joining me on my drive, and I hope you found a little bit from the method that I've put together and the process I've been through to get myself on the road. A little bit of technology involved, obviously, which is still not given my background, but it's been quite a process. Takes a lot of patience and diligence to get to the end. So obviously though, once you're on the road, it's about a little bit of freedom and a little bit of independence, and for me, being a little bit helpful in my family. So thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed the drive.